going to do is introduce you to our next speaker. We have a 15-minute session at this time by Pavan Peechara. Pavan, who will be speaking about the new holy grail going beyond e-commerce. So we've heard a little bit about that this morning. Pavan will take us through that a bit more in depth in whatever he can do in 15 minutes. He's the founder of Excellor and contributes to its product management and business strategy. Excellor is an Adacquare spinoff, and envisioning and developing products, building technology and business teams is his forte. Now, Pavan holds multiple patents in e-commerce and transactional analytics. He also serves as the president and CEO of Adacquare and as the director of Udyog. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Pavan to the stage.
Good morning or good afternoon. E-commerce has been a subject which pulled me in 2010 or 11 when we were working on a few algorithms as to understand centralization and decentralization of retail or commerce in general. Back in 2011, when we looked at commerce, what was happening? In 1990s or 80s, most of the big retailers, including Walmart's, Macy's, they were carrying multiple products within one segment. But when it came to early 2000s, they started lesser competition, internal products, and that's where we said, how do businesses, existing businesses, push forward? So that's where we thought companies require to engage their existing consumer base, trusted consumer base, much more efficiently, and they have to engage via multiple channels. So the first big question, and the more I'll be talking towards today, is towards your e-commerce and you starting your own one. So existing customers always talk about the experience they have, the trust they have in your brand, the trust they have doing business with you if you are a local retailer. So are we converting their conversations with new media, with social media, with Twitters, or if there are interactions on your own platform? And that's where we talk about trustomers bringing in more customers, more new potential customers. Then I'll be coming back and talking more about analytics that you can have, you can generate from your existing customers. But e-commerce, when the topic was given as beyond e-commerce to me, one of the things that we have to look at is how users are being engaged, how the trust that you generated over a period of time with your existing customers is translated into more transactions, use digital media, use social engagement. But then, coming back the other side are the areas where you're talking about order processing efficiencies, integrating your existing stores, integrating your existing warehouses and supply chain. What does it really involve, right? You are wanting to open up on e-channels, sell on marketplaces on one hand. You are trying to integrate your own brick and mortar stores where you have point of sale applications, inventory holding. Can you save on your inventory? How much inventory should you maintain in your store when you're having e-channels producing? Can you deliver a product from the right location? So if somebody is ordering from Bangalore and your shipping warehouse for e-channels is in Mumbai, is it right for you to locally ship it first to your store in Bangalore and then ship from there? Is that going to lead to savings in transactions like VAT cost, right? Value-added taxation. So it is about enabling multiple channels at the same time, optimize in terms of savings in taxes, savings in savings in bulk movement of your goods from your warehouse to the local stores and then shipping smaller packages to the consumers. So fulfill from nearest location or warehouse is always the way to go and save on taxes. The second thing, what smaller, or those who are coming from brick and mortar businesses to e-commerce, the process efficiencies that Amazons of the world have achieved is the key for them to do customer satisfaction, customer experience. Now, are we having enough process in play? Are we validating the data that is coming from various channels? Yes, you are selling on multiple marketplaces. You are selling on your own e-commerce site. Now, when you're selling on these multiple platforms, each of these platforms send across an order in their own different format, maybe an XML format or whatever technical document, e-document, electronic document it is. So take and integrate those systems, validate the data, confirm if the payments are received as the first step, isn't it? In the second step, you want to allocate the right inventory location. So what if you have 20, 24 inventory locations across the country? Which do you have stock in all? So an order could have 10 line items or 20 line items. Are you having all the stock in the same location? If you're not having all the stock in the same location, are you splitting the delivery into multiple ones? So, allocating inventory, allocating ship from date, then computing of taxation. Tax computing is a very interesting subject and very complicated subject when it comes to that. I do not know how many of you know here in Maharashtra, they charge tax on freight cost for every package that comes from outside the state, which is 2,000 rupees and more. So, can you save on taxes on your e-commerce transactions while shipping? That's a huge subject itself. And then you are in a regime where your taxes today are shipped from, based on ship from. VAT is from where you're shipping, your warehouses or what. Now, tomorrow, if they're introducing GST, that is going to be a destination-based taxation system. So wherever your consumer is buying from, that is what that would call your taxes. Then you have your logistic calling, optimal logistic calling. Your shipment documents have to have certain compliance data. So the point I'm trying to say is, if this is a process-enabled back-end system, so if your back-end staff who are taking order from your e-commerce portals are doing it in a process, and those process efficiencies are most important in my view, or it's proven view, to gain with e-commerce. Taxes can be complicated, and this is where I believe you need to use a very standard system. I do not know how many of you have heard, there are companies in US, thanks to e-commerce growth, there are companies which just provide e-commerce transactional taxes, which have been valued close to 400 millions and 500 millions. Of course, Thomson Reuters of the world, they are still the leaders when it comes to large businesses, but companies like Avalara, companies like others are providing transactional taxes in those areas. In India, I think we have Udyog and other companies which provide. But tax on transaction is very important and compliance is very important. Certain places have octroys and others coming in place. We've heard one large e-commerce player in India come to us for problems with shipment documents, right? When they were shipping orders to Uttar Pradesh or some other states, the compliance, the goods were never allowed to be delivered because the shipment document did not have all the details that it needed. So these are things that you want to be prepared ahead of time when you're getting into e-commerce. Taxes are by jurisdictions. It's going to be slightly complicated with GST. Even if it is going to be plus or minus 1%, you need to know which good, which tax, and it is going to be destination-bound tax, not origin. As of now in India, from wherever we are shipping, those are the tax rates that are applicable. But once we go into destination-bound taxation system, you should have taxes for all the states. And that's going to complicate your internal preparation that much more. And if you're trading with 2,000 to 10,000 SKUs, then that's a little more complication. Now, I'm switching over in terms of time. I've talked about order processing. I've talked about engaging the users. I'll come back to engaging the users a little bit more in detail. But right now, are your e-commerce managers powered appropriately? This is where some of your e-commerce businesses could be large. When they are large, the e-commerce business, you kind of split between your catalog managers. Each of your guys can own a category or a subcategory. They can own their pricings. They can own their deals or discounts. But when it comes to managing a commerce business and online and synchronizing with your offline stores, you have to create the same experience. Your deals or discounts or coupons or pricings have to be fairly consistent. That basically means your e-commerce managers need to know whom they are targeting, why they are targeting, and what kind of deals they are targeting with. And when they're targeting with those kind of deals or pricing, are they getting the right ROI? So I think one of the most important things is enabling certain things like consumer grouping, ability to group consumers, across ages, 20 years, 25 years. Are they across genders, across regions? Because the purchasing choices of a person in Bangalore or Hyderabad or Kolkata could be quite different. So are they engaging with right tools, targeting right customer groups with right discounts? Now, obviously, you will talk about certain things where you need advanced tagging. Now, catalogs are usually, when you're selling an item, there could be a lot of upsell or cross-sell option. And when you look at these marketplaces, that's where they unleash the power of knowing the user ahead of time and knowing the product, what are the ideal upsell and cross-sell items while somebody purchases one product, right? So how do you connect them? Of course, categorizations, putting them in a family, subcategorizations will definitely make it possible. But is it better possible with advanced tagging, right? You kind of tag products and knit them together so that, when a person, 25-year-old lady shopping for a beauty product can add one more product to the cart. So how do you do that? So moving on. So this is another favorite topic I get into when it comes to smaller e-commerce businesses. Amazon and companies like Flipkart, companies like Snapdeal, they are growing in enormous power when it comes to understanding a consumer. Their business models work across product categories. They go into millions of product categories. But how is a small e-commerce player or a new e-commerce player or a brick-and-mortar company, which is a fairly large brick-and-mortar company with an established business of a few tens of crores or few hundreds of crores, how are they going to gain customers? Or how are they going to get connected with their customers? They may have a customer who is already offline in their offline store. Are they going to gain from the trust they established over the last 20 years or 30 years? So that's where, and then how do you build upon? Having a customer say something about you is one thing, but if that say is going to be spread onto the Facebook or onto the Twitter, are they going to get a larger volume? It's one thing. So the earlier panel gentleman spoke about reviews and ratings. I'll not take much time about reviews and ratings, but what would happen when you're giving feedbacks or when your customers are giving feedback, the feedbacks for against your product or against your brand as a retailing brand, those feedbacks could have content that is very good, but you might need a moderation studio where you want to moderate the content that is received. You might need tools to do sentiment analysis. Is this a positive feedback about my product? Is this a positive feedback about my store? Now, if it is a very positive feedback, then what to do with that feedback? Can you re-syndicate that content onto Twitter? Can you re-syndicate that content onto your Facebook page? Now, if so, how are you doing it? So the point is, engage with users, gain with reviews and ratings, but then don't just stop there. Push that onto your Facebook page, push that onto your Twitter page. Now, will you be able to also use the person, tag the person who sent it? So they might be existing on Facebook, they might be existing on LinkedIn. So does 500 people who are their friends or his friends or her friends, whoever contributed to that review, can the word of mouth spread? So that's one. Syndication, getting the content, and syndication is big. And content analytics. Content analytics could be relevance of content to the products you are selling. And content analytics could be, your influencer analytics. We often talk about the reach scores of Amitabh Bachchan talking about something, or a Sachin Tendulkar talking about something. The reach on Twitter for each of them could be millions of people. But then, is Sachin Tendulkar making a lot of impact or influence when I'm selling an electronic product versus something else? Or is this expert who is known to be reviewing electronic products? Are they getting the most influence? The influence can be measured with the transaction, not just with the content as well, right? So try and get your monetizing analytics out. That's when you will be able to run your e-commerce as well as anybody else, or the large players per se. The last but least, I do not know how many people you would have noticed in newspapers, initially everybody used to ask for their own login IDs. Now, to contribute a comment or something. But later on, most of them have come to some common platform. I see Discuss as one of those platforms. I see Vukel as one of those platforms. So when you go to Indian Express and try and leave a comment on an article, you are signing in with something called as Discuss. Now, what is that happening there, right? They are trying to identify each of us ahead of time. So before even you log into the site is recognizing you, courtesy one of these common frameworks. So as a small or as a medium e-commerce portal, if you can identify the user who is coming onto your portal, as well as how Amazon is doing it, that's when you can start positioning the right products for them. You don't want to position, if you are into garment or textile business, and if you know the person who is coming is gender female, of a certain age group from certain location, you might want to target them better. And that's where recognizing the customer ahead is going to be good for you. So finally, monetizing analytics, trying to gain, make your brands popular, trying to target and position better, having your back end with order processing, taxation, synchronizing inventory locations. So these are probably a few things I would have liked to talk about in terms of beyond e-commerce. We've done a lot of work. If there are certain things that are questions or whatever, I could take them offline or online based on your time. Right? Offline, that's good. So thank you.